welcome to the SalesData Gap Analysis Report tutorial video. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining some of the features and criteria that you can use to create a gap analysis report, as well as giving you a quick demo of what the results page looks like. So to get to a gap analysis report, you can start at the home page here and navigate over here in the sidebar. Something you'll notice, which is different than a lot of reports in sales and library data, is that there are 3 different types of reports under the umbrella of the gap analysis report. They all function in similar ways, which is to allow you to compare your sales and inventory, so the sales in your home market, to another market to benchmark performance. So let's start with the first type of gap analysis report, which is a buying gaps report. So this allows you to see titles that could potentially be carried in your home market. So these are titles that were stocked and sold in your comparison market, but are not available in your home market. The default comparison market that you're using to benchmark is the all markets, but you are also able to add any additional markets that might be of interest. So this will provide more information about how titles are doing in different specific retailers. The report will not be run using these additional markets, but they will display the sales and inventory columns so you can get a better sense of how your titles are performing. Continuing down, you are able to select your reporting period. So the default is the current week, but you can also select something else from the drop-down list here, or if you have a specific period that you're interested in, you can use the calendar drop-downs. This report criteria selection screen also allows you to select the number of rows that you're interested in seeing, and this corresponds directly to the number of titles that you'll see when the report results are returned. Continuing down, we get into some advanced criteria. So you have the option to filter by unit sold or list price. You can also filter by pub date, which can be helpful if you want to look only, say, in backlist titles. You also have the option to filter by subject and format. Now, for these aren't free text entry boxes. What you do is you click on these buttons here. This brings you to a bisect subject tree, and then you can select from there or search for the subject that you're interested in up in the bar. Format works in a similar way. For publisher, imprint, and distributor, you can start typing in this box. So let's say I was looking for titles published by Penguin Random House. And some possible options that I can select from will appear in this drop-down list. So that's the buying gaps report, the first one. Let's take a look at what inventory performance looks like. So where buying gaps shows titles that you did not have in stock, the inventory performance shows titles that sold well in the comparison market, but were not sold in your home market despite you having those titles in stock. The ability to select your home market, comparison market, and additional markets functions similarly to the buying gaps. But you will notice that the reporting period offers slightly longer periods. This can be helpful because a title might not have sold any copies in one given week or the last 2 weeks. You want those longer time spans to really see what's just sitting on your shelves and not moving. Scrolling down, you'll see similar advanced criteria that you can filter by, like units sold, the list price, pub date, subject, publisher, etc., etc. And finally, we have the third option for a gap analysis report, which is the bestseller gaps. Now, where the buying gaps and inventory performance are true gap analysis reports in that it's a rigid set of results showing you titles that have 0 sales, the bestseller gaps is a little bit different because you're going to see a list of the best-selling titles in your comparison market ranked by units sold, and then their sales and inventory in your home market. So you can compare the two and see if the best sellers in the comparison market you've selected are also the best sellers at your home market. So this report kind of functions as a combination of the bestseller report in SalesData and a multi-ISBN report without you having to enter a whole list of ISBNs. So we've already gone through this in the other 2 reports. You can select your home market, comparison, reporting period, and then the advanced criteria. So here we are at the report results page for a buying gaps report. I prepared this beforehand, but luckily you can see the criteria that I used to run this report up here. This is available for any report that you run in SalesData. So we have a summary of the group, the home market that I'm comparing from, which is the independents, and then the comparison market, which is the all market. And I've chosen my reporting period as the last 4 weeks. If I wanted to change any of this or add any extra criteria, I could click on the View Adjust Criteria button here, and this would take me back to the criteria selection page. Below that, we have the option to customize our columns. This again is common in every sales data and library data report. So we have our column headers here, and if I wanted to say not see the ISBNs in my report, I could go into the Customize Columns pop-up window, deselect that, and then it will be removed from our table. If I removed some columns and decided that these were what I wanted to be seeing every time I ran a gap analysis report, I could click on Use Columns below for my defaults, and then every time I run one of these reports, these are the columns that I would automatically see. The gap analysis report is a little bit different than the other reports in SalesData because it gives you the option to block selected ISBNs. Now this can be particularly useful because there might be titles that you know that you're never going to want to carry in your store. They aren't relevant either to the subjects that you carry or the type of book that you're interested in selling. By selecting ISBNs from the table of data below this button, you can then hide those ISBNs and you won't see them whenever you're running gap analysis reports, so you're not going to have to be just ignoring them every time you run a fresh report. If you already blocked some ISBNs, you can view them by clicking on this button, and this will allow you either to do it manually by entering here, removing all the blocks that you've set before, and viewing a list of all the ISBNs that you've blocked entirely. So they haven't just disappeared from SalesData for you. You're still able to manage that even after you've chosen to block a title. Now is probably a good time to mention that when you have access to SalesData, you will not see this orange box telling you that the data is confidential. We've put this here because the data is proprietary and it's only available to SalesData users. So if you don't have access to SalesData, you can send us an email here at BookNet Canada, or you can go to booknetcanada.ca/salesdata and request access. We can get a sense of what information we would be given in this report though. So you can see we would have a list of titles, ISBNs, pub date, the publisher, and then getting over here, this is the real meat of the gap analysis report. So you can see inventory and sales performance information for your home, which in this case is the independents, and for the comparison market. So this is a chance for you to look and see, okay, this title has this many units sold in the all market, but I don't have any copies. Is it worthwhile for me to bring this in and try selling it at my store? The data in SalesData gets updated weekly when we receive new data from the POS systems of various retailers. And if you wanted to, you have the option of saving this report so that every time the data is updated, you get a fresh version with the latest data. If you choose to save this report, it will appear over in the My Reports section here, where you have the option to edit or adjust criteria or view the report again. You could also distribute it to your colleagues. So if you think that someone you work with would be interested in seeing this report, you can share it with them and then they will also have access. Another great feature is that you can set up email notifications. So every week when the data has been updated, you'll receive an email notifying you that your report has some fresh data that you might want to check out. If you want to export a static copy of this table of data as it is right now, you can click on the download email button, so you can either download it as an Excel or CSV file, or you can email yourself a copy.